Welcome everybody to this episode of the Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly. It's Rick from Blind, and I have the honor of introducing Rod Adams, who's the talent acquisition and onboarding leader at PwC. That means he's a principal there. He leads talent acquisition, onboarding across the US and Mexico. Fun fact about Rod's team actually is they hire more than 13,000 full-time professionals and interns every single year. And for those of you that don't know, PwC is a network of firms in 155 countries with over 327,000 people providing assurance, advisory, and tax services. So thanks for coming on the show, Rod.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the discussion.
See, Rod, the biggest thing for me as a person who's running a search firm, I see people moving all the time, and you've been there 27 years, and that's kind of an anomaly. Can you walk us through it? What I've seen in the past, people who stay, there's a reason for it. So maybe you could say, why like 27? Yeah. What's the secret sauce, that keeps you there?
It is a good question. So yes, it has been it's been 27 years. And there's a few things that I would highlight that have influenced my decision to stay. And don't get me wrong, I've looked, right? It's not that
we'll edit that part out so that you don't hear it.
Yeah. It's not that I haven't explored, but I've always made the decision to stay. I mean, and it is things that you hear a lot, like the people. I really do love the people we work. I feel like it's a very driven culture, and the people we hire are driven to be successful. So that's been fun to be around. The culture in general is great. But the biggest thing I'd say is the upward mobility, the opportunity to take on different challenges has been the biggest thing. So when I started 27 years ago, which makes me feel very old. I was an accounting major out of school, so I started in the audit practice. And I did audit for a few years, made senior associate, and then found my way out of audit into the human capital space. And I've done a variety of different roles in the human capital space. And ultimately, like Rick said, I am now leading talent acquisition and onboarding for the US firm, and made partner a year and a half ago. So there was a lot of things in between, moving out of audit, joining the human capital space, and where I am now. So the variety of different opportunities. I've lived in a few different places here in Chicago, moved to LA for a while, back to Chicago. I've traveled a lot for work. So the challenges and opportunities absolutely is at the top of the list of why I've stayed. I haven't had to leave to find a way to reinvent myself or to do something different. So that's been a big piece of why I'm still with the firm.
It's a smart thing with PwC, because what I noticed, turn back maybe a year or two ago, right? You have the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, acting your wage. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is because the companies don't have a path forward or don't even discuss it. And it seems what happened in your career is that, you're an ambitious person, you may partner, but at the same time, they offered you opportunities and you earned opportunities within the organization to grow and develop and learn new things. And Rick, we've seen this with a lot of companies, like they don't do that. You know what I mean? They really don't put the time and effort. And I always like, why? I mean, you lose people that way.
Yeah, and I think to me, I think it's one of the trends you'll start to see more and more of is organizations figuring out how they tap into the talent that's already into their organization versus watching it walk out the door, or always going to the external market, as they're looking for different skills. How do they reskill and upskill the people in their organizations? I think generally that's what people are looking for. So in my case, I would credit really good mentors in addition to whatever level of ambition I had. It has evolved over the years, but I would credit really good mentors helping steer me in the right direction, have the right conversations that helped me land in different roles throughout my career. But even us as a firm, we just rolled out a new um, people strategy. We call it My Plus because we name everything. That's what professional services firms do. But we call it My Plus, and so we rolled out a new strategy. And one of the big tenet of it is personalization in a variety of different areas, but largely personalization. And how do we make sure the opportunities that people get when they walk in PwC are unique to what those individuals want, which will vary as they, as their career progresses. So we are more purposefully thinking about how do we make sure that people know about the different opportunities that exist in the firm. And we're 60,000 people in the US. We do a lot of different things. So it's hard to know what all of the different opportunities are out there. So we're being mindful of how we do a better job of that, and then make it easy for people to raise their hand and say, I'd like to do something different. I'd like to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe I have the skills already. Maybe I need to build them, but we're purposely focused in that area. And I think a lot of organizations will do more and more of that.
In terms of the mentoring, you know, I'll write about, I write for Forbes, I write about mentoring and things of that nature. Yeah. But then a lot of times it's difficult. How do you find a mentor? Did you personally, did you seek somebody out, or was someone gracious enough to say, hey, I'm going to take you under my wing and help you out, so this way you don't make the same mistakes I did?
I think a little bit of both. Yeah. A little bit of both. I think it's definitely a two-way street, right? I've had some of my most effective mentors that have been people that, for whatever reason, saw something in me and decided they wanted to help. But I honestly don't think it would have taken if I wasn't open to, building that relationship, right? Building a level of trust, building a level of familiarity where we could actually get to know each other and then build that trusting relationship. And so it's got to be a two-way street. There's been some situations where I've seeked and basically said, hey, I would like you to be a mentor of mine. But a lot of it has been a lot more natural than that, where working with someone or, whatever it may be, a relationship has been built, which has been the start. That was the foundation that then turned into, a mentor, an advocate, a sponsor, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of different words that mean slightly different things. Yeah. When you think about advocates, mentors, and sponsors, but have turned into those type of relationships. It all started with having that, building that trust, that foundational trust at the beginning, so that then they could, they could advocate or help me as I look to make different decisions.
I mean, when you're talking to these mentors, advisors, whatever you want to call it, how personal, how heartfelt is that conversation? Are you sticking straight to work, or is it just life in general?
I think my personal opinion, and that's what you guys are looking for. It's got to be layers deeper than work, right? There's no one that I can say that's a true mentor of mine, or that I am a mentor of, that I don't know personally, or they don't know me personally. I think that's a critical, personal opinion, I think that's a critical piece of it, is that you've got to break down the walls, let them get to know you, know what's important to you, what drives you outside of work, what your motivators are, and some of those hard stories as well, right? So it is got to be layers deeper than a working relationship, in my mind, for it to have the true impact that's possible for a mentor relationship.
Rod, do you have within PwC, a thing where, whether officially, unofficially, for mentors, sponsors, coaches, because more as you're talking, I'm thinking about it, whether it's PwC or other companies, if let's say you're a millennial or Gen Z, right? And let's say a millennial who, got into the workforce, you know, right after the financial crisis, they only knew the market kind of pretty much going up. And now when it's going down and
Yeah.
there's layoffs, it's easy to get freaked out. Like, what happened? What's going on here? But
Yeah.
if you do have like a coach, mentor, I don't know, some mechanism that could kind of guide, in this instance, like the younger people to say, all right, been through like the dot-com boom and bust, been through the financial crisis, been through
Yeah.
this, and here's what to expect. Here's what's going to happen. Don't freak out. Don't quit. Don't rage, apply
Right.
for a job, rage quit. This is,
Yeah.
This happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would advise everyone's got to have multiple people that they can get perspectives from, especially in today's world. I feel like as I was coming up, not feel like there just wasn't as much change. It wasn't as much volatility. It wasn't as dynamic. So now, month to month, things seem to change so much in general around us. I do think multiple perspectives to help inform decision making around one's career is important. So not just one mentor or one advisor, like multiple people that you can ask the same question to and kind of hear what the different perspectives are to ultimately make a decision for yourself. You asked at the beginning of that. So at PwC, we do have a formal program. So individuals come in, they get we've called it different things, but they get kind of a relationship person to help them just understand the firm. It's more of like it can mature to more than this, but as written, it's like a 2 to day 1 to like 6 month relationship. It's really like, where's the copier? Where's the coffee? That sounds kind of old. Who even goes to the office anymore? But you know what I mean. Like the real basics of things. You get a coach. So a coach is definitely a more formal role. That coach is a level or two above where you're coming in at, and that individual is truly there to help you get on the right assignments, get in touch with the right people depending on your interests, helping you understand the feedback you're getting and how is that translating the impact, how is it going to translate to your progression and ultimate promotion. So it is a formal role to help in your career as you develop at PwC. And then you get a relationship leader, which is generally a partner, and that person is to give you a connection to leadership, right? So that leadership advice in the firm, they represent you in the year-end performance process. So that's your development team is what we call it. And then we've got HR professionals mixed in there as well. So we have a formal program, which I think it's great. Those are individuals that are assigned. They're assigned based off of the practice segment that you're in. And I've always found good value out of that. I go back to what I said earlier. I always added in more than that, right? Because there are relationships that developed more naturally outside of the program that I could get some of the same, if not better, benefits from those who were assigned to me as those that I found naturally. But at the same time, it's great. My first, like I said, I was in audit. I moved out of audit into the people space. That first opportunity to move out of audit to the people space was my coach at the time helped find that opportunity for me. So it was the individual that was assigned to me, just through conversations and understanding what I was interested in. He helped kind of secure an opportunity for me to do what was supposed to be like a year-long tour in the human capital space, which turned into 2 decades, but
That's a long tour.
more than 2 decades. But that my assigned coach helped make that happen. So it is a program that has proven to be very useful.
It seems like kind of tracking your career arc, it's been very forward thinking in a sense, right? Where it's very focused on like how do we build not only these like formal structures but also informal. Um, I want to kind of dive a bit deeper. If you work at a startup or a company that doesn't have these structures,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and maybe you're junior, young in tenure, you just don't feel comfortable reaching out, kind of raising your hand, approaching someone, knocking on someone's door, so to speak. I mean, what's do you have any advice there for what
Yeah.
someone there should do?
No, it's a great point because I have grown up in this, you know, this environment of professional services that is hyper focused on the people experience and
Right.
creating the right experiences for talent. I personally would say it goes back to how are you making sure you're being authentic and bringing your whole self to all of the experiences that you have. Like you don't have to necessarily knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, I want you to be a mentor." But if in whatever work you're doing, you're likely doing it and engaging with other people in some way, shape, or form. You're getting your assignments from someone, or you're
Right.
you're working in teams to deliver on a project, whatever it may be. Being open in those situations to let people know you, get to know you, would be the biggest advice I think I'd give, especially a young person starting out in their career. Because I do think there's I observe, being in recruiting here as long as I have, there is a tendency sometimes to kind of put up the wall of this is the work me, and I'm gonna be the work me and only let my work people know so much about me, and then I have the non-work me, and I have a different set of people and they know different things about me. I think you got to blur those lines. um I think it's the most natural way for someone young in their career to naturally build relationships where they will get mentors and sponsors and people that they trust that they can ask career questions to. Is blurring those lines and building those trust-based, authentic relationships early.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense because I think some people are very intimidated, right? Like maybe it's a stereotype, but I find folks in management consulting, accounting, advisory, um, they tend to have like a certain kind of personality where it makes
A
it
little bit
easy.
more of an A personality.
Right.
Yeah,
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 you
yeah.
you
That's
can
fair.
say it,
That's
right?
fair. Yep, that's fair. That's fair. I and I think because of the nature of what we do in client service, and you're always talking to clients, and
Right.
you kind of have to. And I get not everyone has that. And quite honestly, not everyone in management consulting has it either.
Ah,
I think some people have to work harder at it than others to get comfortable putting themselves out there with a client or with their teams. Um, and again, like I said, I know you guys have probably experienced it too. I've had I've had the situations where you've got a bold individual that just like calls me up. I'd like you to be my mentor. Here's what you need to know about me. Like I have never been that bold, quite honestly, personally in my career, but I have witnessed that. I just don't think that's the way it happens the majority of the time. I do believe that the
ah,
majority of the time it's more natural because people have built a relationship where they've just gotten to know someone. Um, so they I should have said this too. A lot of you got to do good work as well, right? So
right.
shouldn't have left that part out. You've got to do good work as well. So you do good work for someone, they and then you also build the relationship part of it. They just it naturally starts to happen. They start to talk about the work you do with other people, and then that starts to become your brand, right? And so um, I don't think you have to be a extrovert to to do good work, and then to just let people get to know a little bit about who you are as a person outside of the work you do.
I love your advice about like different entry points into finding a mentor or different programs or even different like kind of specialties. I mean,
Mhm.
in that same track, some people might not, you know, think that they have what it takes to make a career in management consulting, accounting, advisory work. A, a big firm like PwC, they didn't study finance, or maybe they didn't go to business school, or maybe they feel like they're not good with numbers. Can you talk about the different entry points available
Yeah,
into these types of careers?
there are so many.
Okay.
There are so many, and I do think we were our we sometimes still get largely known as like an accounting firm or something like that, and you got to be good with numbers. But we hire individuals with from all kinds of backgrounds. Um, at the end of the day, we're looking for people who are have good relationship skills, who um, are have a desire to learn and to be what we call lifelong learner, which I think is a term that gets used a lot now. But to be lifelong learners that are looking to continue to develop their skills, whatever those may be, or new skills. Um, Looking for people with a certain level of you know acumen around the business world, or desire to learn it, who are inclusive, um, in the way that they operate, and that's tied to relationships. But I do think we look for it uniquely, like an inclusive mindset, individuals who want to bring others along, and then just a whole leader. So there's a lot of soft skills in what I just said, and then yes, if you're in accounting, you need to have accounting skills, or if you're in cybersecurity, you need to have cyber skills. Or if you're in our marketing practice, you need to have marketing skills. Or if you're in our workforce transformation, you need to have, some HR skills. But we consult in so many different areas. Those technical skills, they really run the gamut. We hire physicians, like we hire so many different things in our profession because we consult across all industries and healthcare and finance and retail and you name it. So we hire a lot of different backgrounds, but those soft skills are the things that are critically important. And I think it's kind of going on a tangent here. Hopefully you don't mind, but in the environment we're in right now, where we're hearing a lot about layoffs, because those are flashy headlines, right? And every time I hear one, it's hard to hear because there's the numbers that get talked about, but at the end of the day, there's a person and their life behind each one of those numbers that has just been uprooted in some way, shape, or form. And I've had plenty of friends and prior colleagues that have been caught in the last couple of months. But what I encourage people to think about is that their their skill sets, especially in that technical space, are so transferable to so many other industries that they might not be thinking about, right? Like you might have worked at one of the big tech companies, and you think tech companies when you think about your skills and tech skills. But we, just using PwC example, we hire all kind of tech skills. Like I mentioned, cybersecurity, data analysts, data scientists, coders. Like we hire it all because we build products for our clients. We build products for ourselves to make our business better. And we're just one example. I think most organizations out there now hire these type of skills. So being open to considering new industries where you could use the same skills is something I would encourage your listeners to do.
As a talent acquisition professional, do you see anything particularly hot that you would say, if someone is laid off and they're looking and maybe they could pivot or reinvent themselves in a different space? Anything comes to mind?
So industry wise, I mean, healthcare is still on fire, right? So I talk to peers who are, in the healthcare industry or touching it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not just saying hospitals or insurance companies, but anything that touches it in some way, shape, or form. Our healthcare practice, because we do a lot of healthcare consulting. those areas, that industry is still really hot. And they need individuals of all types of skill sets for the various different things that they're doing. So that's an industry I would definitely consider. I do think skill set wise, building skills, that are in the data digital space, I would say I would encourage anyone to do. So if those aren't skills that you have, I would suggest looking at the various ways. There's a lot of certificates out there, right? There's a lot of different organizations offering different certificates in project management or data analytics or design thinking, whatever it may be. If those aren't skills that you have, I encourage individuals out there in the marketplace to look at getting those skills, because they're very much in demand for a lot of different jobs, and being able to articulate that you have skills in that space is only going to open up more doors for your listeners.
I mean, it seems like when you hear like, oh gosh, like these huge tech companies are laying off thousands of people, they're obviously going to be looking for jobs. It can be very intimidating to say like, oh, I have to compete with these guys, or maybe the job market is just a lot tougher because there's a lot more people applying now. Do you have any advice in terms of how to stand out in kind of like a hot job market or competitive job market? Or is our job market even competitive right now?
I mean,
Are-
it's competitive. It is a year. It's definitely different than it was a year ago, where
right.
they're just throwing out jobs. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys heard the story. People were getting job offers without even interviewing, right?
Right.
That's not the case. So it is more competitive. You also, I'm sure, see the numbers. There's still a lot of opportunities for skilled workers that exist out there, compared to the supply of talent that's out there, even after the layoffs. I do think it's, again, thinking differently about, maybe I didn't think about that industry, or I didn't think about that profession that individuals need to do. I didn't know that profession would be interested in these type of skills, right? So I do think, so your question, to stand out, this doesn't help stand out, but the first thing I would do is kind of evaluate the skills that you have, and then have an open mind, do some searching on what are the places what are the industries and the places that these skills are getting hired that may not have been on my radar. So that would be the first thing I do, is open the aperture to where you may be searching for an opportunity. And then as far as standing out, it is, that's the age-old challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to stand out when you're a piece of paper that is going across the desk of a recruiter. And Jack, I know you know this well. You look it's probably as many resumes as I do. That is not an easy thing to do. I do think that's where you leverage your network as much as possible. Now on your resume and things, like, you got to do the blocking and tackling, right? You can't have errors. You've got to make sure you're crisply articulating the skills and experiences and impact that you've had in your career, whatever that may be, however long that may be. But once you get beyond the piece of paper and making sure that is a accurate, error free, and I say that because there's more errors in resumes than you would appreciate, and that's one of the things that recruiters look at. It's attention to
Oh,
detail,
wow.
right? And if you can't get your resume right, who knows what else you can't get right. So sounds small, but I see it more often than you would imagine. So getting that right, error-free reflection of who you are, but then leveraging your network, right? Most of your listeners, I'm sure, are on LinkedIn, and they have a network of people on LinkedIn. Leverage that network to help on the research side, and to potentially open a door. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, if there's an organization that you're interested in, reaching out to someone in your network that you're interested in an organization. You got people in your network who work at that organization, reaching out and just saying, hey, I'm looking. Just wanted you to know if there's anything, you could do to help. That'd be great. Maybe the answer is no, but a lot of organizations have referral programs, and those employees could potentially be rewarded for a referral they submit, so they might be motivated to help. You never know unless you ask. So I would encourage you to leverage that network.
Talk about aligned incentives there, right?
Exactly. There are
Champion.
absolutely aligned incentives. Ours is actually a relatively lucrative employee referral program, so it does people very well.
So do you get people who give you a referral and you like roll your eyes like, oh, come on, this person's nowhere near good for the job. You just want to get that $5,000 bonus. Come on, Rick, don't do that.
100% that happens. That's some of the good with the bad. But one thing we started doing that we've noticed is we're a big organization. So if you're in a big organization, they just don't know everything that we have to offer. So we have been more mindful to say, okay, you referred, I don't know, whatever background to an audit job, right? And no way this person can do audit. We hire accountants. Oh, but you know what? Their background does fit something else that we're looking for that you didn't even know existed. So we're going to repurpose your referral and you still get credit for it. Our biggest thing is, just making sure our referrers help get the referees across the finish line, help us secure a hire.
That's really cool. So in other words, because like I'll see a lot of HR people, and I can't blame them. You get overloaded. Like I just give you an example. Just on last week, right? I posted this role for really cool, like cryptocurrency type of role that's remote. Dude, I can't, like recruiters and talent acquisition will get heat for like, why don't you get back? I literally can't get back to everybody. There's just so many that are out there. It's hard to kind of follow up on it. But it sounds like what you're doing too is that, hey, if Rick applies or Jack applies for a role and it's not perfect, but they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
this could be good for some other. So in your DNA at PwC, you'll do that. You'll have like your recruiters go, wait, let's not just toss this one away. Let's put them in the right.
And it is a muscle we are building as we speak. It was, I would say, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we weren't doing it as well. It's one of the things as a part of, all the hiring. It was something that we're like, okay, we could do this better. We're getting talent handed to us that doesn't fit that spec, but fits another spec, and we weren't doing a good enough job of what we now call rehoming those individuals to an opportunity that does fit their skill set, their experience, and their interests. So that is an area of focus for us, for sure. And it's hard for the reasons that you just said, because you're a recruiter, you have a spec you're trying to hire. Taking time to rehome someone to another place where someone else is trying to hire, but not you, is not always easy. But that is an important priority for us.
And I guess also you run into that where someone feels their skills cross over, but then the hiring person may feel it really doesn't, or they don't want to they don't want to put in the time. And I can't blame them. They may not want to put in the time and effort to train somebody because maybe they'll never get over the learning curve. So it's a little rough at times, right? It's good, it helps, but it's not perfect, I guess.
It's not perfect. It helps, but that goes back to the point I made earlier in the discussion. I do think more and more, from a human capital strategy perspective, to be as successful as possible in hiring and attracting top talent and having the right top talent to do what needs to get done, organizations are going to have to be more willing to train, to develop, to take someone that might have 7 of the 10 things you're looking for and not all 10 of the things you're looking for, and develop an upskill on those other 3, right? I just think that is going to become how you do that, and how you build your organization to do that is going to become more and more important to be able to get the to hire and retain people. I just think that's going to become more and more of a.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
It's almost like if you put them all together, so no particular order, you have a mentorship, sponsorship, coach kind of thing. You have the opportunity to grow within the organization. for people coming in, they don't have, if they have the skills and they apply for one, but they cross over, to have the means and mechanisms to get that resume in front of the right people. So it almost sounds like you put all those together and it becomes like a recruiting unstoppable machine, because now you have everything in place to retain people, right? To keep them happy, to keep them growing, to keep them advancing in the career like you did. But then for new people come in, to make sure if someone's like really amazing, you just don't say, oh, sorry, and you lose that, A+ player.
Yeah, that's right. I am trying with all my power, Jack, to build a recruiting unstoppable machine. That is, that
But
is
you
my
have the pieces,
ultimate-
the way you described it, it does, like all those pieces are there.
The pieces, it's the right pieces, and part of it is always thinking and innovating and being conscious of how the market is changing. So that I feel like those are the right pieces right now. The hard part is the execution, right? Like it's all easier said than done. But I do think those are the right pieces.
And this is not a fair question to ask, but like, and put aside PwC just generally, it must be hard for talent acquisition executives to figure out what to do, because like you mentioned earlier in the show, it's like everything changes so quickly. So you know what I mean? Like what's now 3 months from now might be completely different. And that got to be hard to figure out, right?
100%. I have definitely just come to the conclusion that I can't assume I know what we are going to need to do 6 months from now, right? Like
it's almost impossible, right? Rick,
it's almost impossible. I don't know what our demand. I don't know what our demand will be. I don't know what the skill sets will be that we're looking for, and I don't know what will be the motivators for talent to want to go work anywhere, right? And so we've always got to be keeping our ear to the ground on what those things are, what the motivators are, and then what, at least in my world, and I think probably in a lot of worlds, what adds to the complexity is, I am responsible for, attracting, finding, putting out that value proposition that people want to be a part of. But then we've got to deliver that once they're here, right? So the actual culture and the experience, once they get here, there's got to be a collaboration between the talent acquisition organization and then the broader people organization to say, okay, here's what they're looking for. They're looking for personalization. They're looking for well-being. They're looking for development. And then working with the people team, the broader people team, how do we build that in our culture so that we can actually deliver on that? Because it's one thing to know what they want. It's another thing to actually obviously deliver on it. So there is a relationship that has to exist there that works together.
You mentioned mental health. Put aside PwC again, because generally, do you see among other companies putting a big effort to help people out? Because people come on, we all know everyone's stressed out of their minds. It's crazy. Like in my whole life, I've never seen, like, you go on Twitter or TikTok, just like violence and anger. It's just so toxic.
It is.
Do you guys do things for it to help people just kind of chill out and calm down and relax and feel like give some psychological safety?
Psychological safety. That is a fantastic word, and one that we have been using, or a combination of words, and term we've been using a lot lately. Yes, 100%. So it is when I think about our people strategy at PwC under this umbrella of My Plus that I talked about, priorities are, diversity and inclusion. How do people feel like they belong when they are, how do we make sure they belong when they're part of our organization? Development. How are people, upskilling themselves, continuing to develop when they get here? And then I'd say well-being. And there's a number of things that fit into there, whether it's flexibility, work from home is a big topic. I put that under the well-being, because I do think for individuals, where they work influences their well-being. And that's different from one person to another. Some people, they want to be at home, and work from home the entire time. Some want to be in an office, whatever it may be, but it influences their well-being. So we put a lot of energy into that. from a lot of different angles, from the how and where you work and how much you work. So we shut down the firm twice a year for a week, as an example. And to us, that's a chance for everyone to have a mental break. Now, everyone has vacation, and they can use vacation whenever they want, but we all know you go on vacation, everybody else is working. Your email box is just filling up, and you know it's filling up. And then the day before you come back, you start to stress about it. The great thing about our shutdowns is everybody's off. And it truly is miraculous. It's one between it, we shut down between Christmas and New Year's, and then we shut down the week of the 4th of July. And there's no traffic. You don't come back to a workload. And so that for us is a good, just shut it down. Don't think about work. Give our people a mental break for a little while. Psychological safety, we talk a lot about, and that is in the context of we work in engagement teams. So we do a lot of training of our engagement leaders on how do you create the safety for people to be healthy, whether that's we create, and one of the things that we encourage people to do in your engagement teams, create a team calendar. So everybody knows not only what work do we have to do, but what's important for Jack. He wants to be at his son's basketball game every Wednesday at 6:00. Team makes that happen. Rick wants to be able to attend yoga class every Tuesday morning. And so he's not going to come in until 9:00. Like, so making sure there's a safety of, we care about you as an individual and what's important to you outside of PwC, knowing that that's only going to make you better for us at PwC as well. So we spend a lot of time on it. We have a managing director whose job is our well-being. She's our well-being leader, and constantly thinking about how we can do better in that space.
Right. To tie in the mental health with, the work, it's interesting on Blind. Rick, you could kind of talk to this better than I do. I know about 6 months ago on the Blind podcast, on the Blind platform rather, you'd have everyone saying, "Hey, I'm only making a total compensation, I'll make up numbers, of 500,000. This is ridiculous. I'm getting paid peanuts. And I'm going to go from Amazon to Microsoft or to Google." And 6 months later, Rick, right? Like now it's more of, well, for my mental health and for my emotional well-being.
Yeah.
And this is how it's hard to kind of
It's
figure
hard.
stuff out, because it just changed. The mindset changed so dramatically in such a short period of time.
Yeah. It is hard to keep up with, but I do think compensation is important, clearly. And everyone wants to feel fairly paid. They want to have financial stability. I didn't mention that as part of one of the reasons why I've been at PwC for 27 years, but it is. All
right, so pays well. So all right, that's really the bottom line.
So we compensation is nice too, but we do like to look at it as, we call it total rewards. So it's not just my base comp, but there's base comp, there's bonus, there's the benefits. We have a student loan payback program that a lot of our people get a lot from. We get the aim. I honestly, just because of what's important to me in the last 10 years of my life, I couldn't imagine working at a place where I didn't get a week off at Christmas and a week off at 4th of July at this point. Like, I'm so reliant and enjoy that space so much that, to me, that is partially, it's a total reward, partially how I'm compensated. And so I do think this things that companies do in well-being, they should be talking about in the same way that they talk about compensation. This is what's important to people, and knowing that they have access to certain things. And for everybody, it's a little bit different, but it is a part of how I believe I'm compensated here. And I think our people believe the same thing.
I want to ask this because very rarely do I get to speak to like someone at such a high level involved in like HR recruiting. You've probably perfected your pitch for PwC. So can we hear it? Like, why is PwC a better place to work compared to other firms?
Okay.
I'm gonna put you on the
Um,
spot here.
You didn't put me on the spot here, so I got to make sure I get my words right. And there's a few key things that I want to communicate, and yes, I do get asked that question, obviously, in various ways at different times. So, for me, PwC, we're a purpose-led, value-driven organization. To me, that's hugely important. As a community, our people, we think of our people as solvers. So we call it a community of solvers. We're dedicated to building a culture of care and belonging. So when I think about that, and then the fact that we're so focused on being human led but tech enabled, and the development of our people, end of the day, focused on our purpose, focused on our values, focused on taking care of our people, being digitally innovative and out front, we end up creating better value for our clients, which helps us win more, and better experiences for our people. That's why, I believe PwC is the place to be.
And the total rewards, I'll help you out, aren't too bad either.
And the total rewards aren't too bad either. The total rewards aren't too bad either. Thank you for that. You got to remember to get that in there. Yes.
No,
Well, it's also the case, right? If, for some of the management consultants, it's almost kind of like an entrepreneurial position, right? Where you're going out there and you're offering advice, so you could really make a lot of money and make a big impact together, right?
100%. It is absolutely an entrepreneurial environment. I mean, we're not a publicly traded company. It's a partnership, right? And so it is a group of partners who are entrepreneurs to grow and develop this business. And there is a lot of opportunity for individuals who aren't partner to work through like an entrepreneurial mindset, to go out and find opportunities to bring our services to people. And we've got tons of examples, every day, every week, of individuals at levels as far down as associate who have found work opportunities for the firm because of someone they know or someone they met or whatever it may be. So it is absolutely an entrepreneurial environment, from a perspective of growth, and the development of our business.
Gosh, that's brilliant, because I think for a lot of our audience, like the blind community, a lot of them are, work in tech roles. They identify as like, oh, I'm a tech guy, or I'm a startup. I just, that's my place. That's my sweet spot. And there's just kind of that like misconception about other firms or professional services or other industries. I mean, are there kind of other common misconceptions that people have about your industry?
Yeah, I think there's misconception of what it is in general we do. I mean, so we have in the spirit of startup, we have a product and tech part of our organization now that didn't exist 6 years ago.
Oh,
it was not.
It
didn't exist. So we are now developing products, that some of which we use in PwC, but a lot of which we sell to clients, and it's largely in the space of risk management, financial type products, or whatever it may be. But we're hiring technical people, coders, things of that nature to develop these products. That didn't exist 6 years ago. We didn't do that. And largely, I think a lot of people still don't think of us as being in
tech company,
a tech company, which we absolutely are. We have a digital and cloud practice,
right,
that we didn't have 6 years ago, that is advising, the biggest names of companies out there on how to, take their business to a more digital place, to place where they're leveraging the cloud. So it is a lot of the businesses, once you get inside our firm and you say, okay, beyond that highest level of we're consultants, and we provide tax, work and audit work to our clients. You go below that highest level, a lot of what we do underneath there changes as quickly as the environment changes. ESG. We weren't doing, ESG audits in our audit group a number of years ago, and now that's a growing place where we're leading the way. So it is very much entrepreneurial, and we're always thinking about what do our clients need and what can we do differently to deliver it to help them continue to grow and do better. So yeah, it's a lot there.
Oh, marvelous. No, I always love, I think I speak on behalf of kind of the blind community of 8 million professionals that they just love that sneak peek, right? That's
Yeah.
part of like the reason why you go on Blind. And I love that you're able to say like, oh, we're actually a tech company. We started this 6-12 months ago. Surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Surprise. And we continue to want to be more of a tech company. So yeah,
Brilliant.
we need more of that talent in the door to help us get there.
Oh man, I really appreciate that. Thanks for coming on the show, Rod. I
My
certainly
pleasure.
learned a lot.
This was fun. It was great.
Thanks, Rod.
Great talking to you guys. You guys have a great show here. So keep doing it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.